As I was looking at the readings today, especially the readings about the temptation of Jesus by the devil, and as I prayed with it, my initial direction, the initial direction of the inspiration within my heart was to go to reflect on that, on the ways the devil tempts us. And as I was looking at it, one fascinating special number, I'm not sure the choir knows this one, was on my mind. And I'm sure we know it, no be so? As I saw the devil coming one by one to tempt Jesus, once, twice, and the third time, I was thinking of that song. It's a very special song, though. This one is from the Bible. I don't know whether some people have heard it. Satan, the number you are calling is not available. Una never hear him. The number you are calling is not available. I know say no. The number you are calling. Thank you. I sang it for a while and I laughed a lot. No be so. But when I prayed more with the text, I decided to go in a different direction. And today, for our reflection, I'm inviting us to pay attention to the image of the desert. The image of the desert as something we can pray with today. Yes, it is true that in the case of Jesus, the desert was a place where he encountered temptation and where he encountered the devil. But the desert is not just a place where the devil resides. The devil is everywhere, no be so? Yeah. So the desert in scripture and in the spiritual life is not just the place where the devil resides. We know what the desert is, right? We have seen it, a place of dryness, no be so? A place where you look around, you shout, ah! The sound comes back and goes, nobody echoes it back to you. So it's a place where there is no one, where there is no life, as it were. A place of abandonment, a place of solitude, a place where if you are alone, you are really, really alone. And if we read the whole of scripture, we see that imagery of the desert all through, not just in the temptation of Jesus, but in the whole life of the children of Israel. We see that imagery. In our first reading, the image that is given of us of the children of Israel is that they were wandering people. They were wanderers. It says, remember, your father was a wandering Aramean. And where did they wander? Where did the children of Israel wander? In the wilderness. For how long? For 40. Exactly. And Jesus goes into the desert and he prayed and fasted for how long? 40. And this period, we enter into that mystery with Jesus. 40 days and nights of what? Fasting and prayer and almsgiving. That's what we have been invited into. So today, the church, as it were, is inviting us to come into the desert. To come into the desert. To be bold enough to take a step into the desert. To take a step into the desert. And why would God be inviting us to go to the desert? For what? We know that spiritually, to be invited to the desert is to be invited to a place of what? Prayer and encounter. As many of you know, I've been working at the retreat center, at our retreat center here in Benin. And most of the time, when people come on their first day of retreat, the text we give them to pray with is, come to the desert where you can be alone with God. Come to the desert where you can be alone with God. The imagery we give them to pray with is the imagery of the desert. Yes, you have been outside doing business, hustling and bustling, but a time of prayer is a time to go into the desert. To go to a place where there is no means of survival except God. That is the desert. Not a place where when there's a problem, you go back to somebody. But a place where you cut all ties in such a way that you force yourself to depend on God, to talk to God. And I can tell you, the experience is very difficult. Maybe so. When we are doing retreat, when people arrive, the first day, just to stay away from their phones, you see them doing like this. Say, Father, am I going to survive this one? Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult. You see them looking like this. They are not allowed to talk. But you can see with their eyes, they are talking. They are begging you, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Please say something to me. I'm almost going crazy. When I was chaplain in a high school, the administrator of the school, because in our school we don't flog students, so the administrator of the school in his office, he had one of the most comfortable chairs in the school, a very beautiful cushion. And what he would do when a child misbehaves, he would call the child into the office, and the office there is air conditioner, there's fan, everything is nice. And then he would tell the child to sit on the most comfortable chair in the office. And the child is like, I committed an offense, and this guy is giving me a palatial chair. He'll say, sit down. 5 minutes, the child is laughing. 10 minutes, 15, 20, 1 hour. Abi, they whine me. Shey, you they whine me. You see the child crying, doing like this, like this, like this. Father, flog me, please. Take him. Flog me, 12. Flog you 24, self, I'm ready. Because all of a sudden they discover that to sit by themselves is very difficult. To enter into the desert where you are alone by yourself, where you are alone with God, is very difficult. Is that not why we have a lot of noise in churches today? And that church, Skimo Robo Saba, are shouting, fire. Because we cannot be quiet to have a desert experience with God. Because that is difficult. We want noise, we want distractions, we want our addictions, we want our over-connectivity, we want noise, we want distraction, we want our over-connectivity. We want to speak with words that have no signature. You know what it means to speak with words that have no signature? Those that don't spend time in the desert, when they speak, their words have no power. And that's why they gossip a lot and complain a lot rather than pray. So in this period of Lent, the church is inviting us into a desert experience. And the desert is a place of encounter, a place of vulnerability, a place of discomfort, a place that is outside our comfort zones. A place where we say to God, I cannot survive without you. I want and only. That is what we are entering into. And that is what this period of Lent is for. But why is God inviting us into the desert? Why is God inviting us into the desert? Why? Why is God inviting us into the desert? After all, I'm saying all this, but I'm a Jesuit. And we say we are contemplatives in action. We find God in all things. So how come a Jesuit is preaching to you to become a monk? Can't I just meet God wherever I am? In my business? Why do I need a desert experience in order to meet God? After all, I've been going to Mass. I've been receiving the Eucharist. Why do I need a desert experience? I have two stories in mind to share, but I will share one example. In fact, I brought the book along with me, but I have it on the table. How many of you know lobster? Lobster. Lobster. It's a crustacean. I think say people for this side when they chop seafood well now. We know lobster now. That sea creature that has a shell. Now, for those of you who watch a lot of National Geographic, lobster, it's often born without a shell. It's born without a shell. And then, after it's born, in a quiet place, it grows a shell. And then after it grows a shell, the animal itself begins to grow on the inside. But the shell does not grow. Because the shell is like stone. Stone they grow? No. Now the problem happens when, so the shell is like its clothes. You know how this mama picking them, when I know what to they suffer, and I know this so. Especially those ones quick. Abi, you buy clothes for them. After the guy no go ask you for permission. After 1 year, Long John has grown. All the trousers have become jumper. And you're like, what thing I go do you? Those days, my mom used to buy oversize. So that they will tell you as you're wearing it the first day, you're looking for street inside the you grow into it. Because you have to economize. So the shell of the lobster is like that. It's like its cloth. The lobster is like the child inside growing. But the problem is that it cannot just change it and go to the market and buy a new one. So what happens when the lobster becomes so big that the shell is too small for it? What does the lobster do? What does the lobster do? It will go to a quiet place, a hidden place. A hidden place. Remember, the shell is its cloth and its protection. And it will struggle and drop the shell. And when it drops the shell, it becomes vulnerable. It's like it. Because the shell is its protection. And then it stays there and grows a new shell, a fresh one. The one that is suiting to its new form. And then it comes out. A new person. A new person. One of my professors at school, he wrote a whole book on just this lobster. I had brought it to Mass today. And he compares that lobster to us human beings. That each step of the way, we are growing on the inside spiritually. Lent is an opportunity when we need to toss away our shells so that we can grow into greater maturity. We can find ourselves in situations where the shells that are good for us become a problem to us. The shell is not bad. The shell of lobster is not bad. But when that shell becomes too small for what the lobster is becoming, that shell becomes what? An obstacle. And in order for the lobster to grow, no matter how good the shell is, the lobster has to shed it. But in order to shed it, the lobster has to do what? Has to face vulnerability. Has to have a desert experience. A desert experience. Where it looks like the lobster is dying, but that lobster has to die in order to be able to live. So it sheds its shell. Another example is the eagle. I'm sure we've heard stories about it. When the eagle, its feather is dying and it can no longer fly high, what does it do? What does it do? It goes to a quiet place and destroys its beak. Boom, 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 boom. And its beak and its, what do they call it? Nails or talons. Those are its weapons of defense. But the beak is important. It breaks it. And after it breaks it, it has no long beak. So it cannot defend itself. It goes and stays somewhere and fasts. And fasts. Because it can't eat. It can't hunt for food. But if it does not do that, it will die. So it stays in a place and waits. And a new beak comes out, and with that new beak, it plucks out its old feathers. Plucks it out completely. And then waits again in fasting. And new feathers grow. And it emerges a wonderful new creature. If it does not do that, it will die. If it does not do that, it will die. So my friends, Lent is an invitation to that desert. It's an invitation to that desert. That place of vulnerability, so that we can encounter God and be transformed. So when Jesus is inviting us to the desert, that's what he's inviting us to. Some of us, it may be that the knowledge we have of God is the knowledge of when we were in catechism. Not be so? Some of us, the knowledge we have of God is the knowledge we have when we did catechism 40 years ago. Lent is a time when we throw away that and grow deeper. It is beautiful, yes. Who made you? God made you. Blah, 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 blah. But at a certain stage in your life, you need more than that. At a certain stage in your life, you need more than that. You can't be operating with the software of 20 years ago. There's need for renewal, so we don't die spiritually, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and even physically. So Lent invites us to that encounter, where we go, and our hiding place is not under a rock. Our hiding place is in God, under God. God, as it were, says, I am your rock. Come and hide here, so that you can renew yourself. Come away with me. Let me nourish you for growth. Let me nourish you for growth. And then lastly, the desert we are being invited to at Lent is not just the physical desert out there. And it's not just the desert of the lobster or the desert of the eagle. What we are being invited into is the Paschal mystery of Christ. It's the Paschal mystery of Christ. The cross. The cross. That's what we are entering into. Because that is the mystery that transforms and renews us. In the early church, there were two words for sacrament. There is sacramentum, which is the one that we translate in English as sacrament, and there was mysterion, which was the Greek version. Outward sign of, ordained by which? Wonderful. That was the definition of the Latin church. But the Greek church said sacraments are mysterion. What is mysterion? Mysterion are the practices, earthly rituals and practices that give human beings the opportunity to participate in the life of the divine that is above us. There are earthly rituals and mysteries that allow us the opportunity, the window, to participate in the life of the divine. And it is that participation that transforms us. So you are here on earth, sitting and getting up at the Mass, but spiritually, you are entering into a mystery that transforms your life here. And that's why as Catholics, we don't make noise when we confront evil. Because you know that you don't have to shout. You are participating in a mystery that has overcome the world. You are participating in a mystery that has overcome the world. You are not at a distance shouting to God. You are in the mystery of the life of God. So in Lent, especially the first week of Lent, as the church is inviting us to come out to the desert, it is inviting us to participate in the saving mystery of our salvation, in the mysterium. And that's what these young catechumen are here to remind us of. Because if we remember, Lent is a preparation for Easter, not so? And what is Easter? The saving mysteries. So everything we are doing here now is preparing us to be so united with Christ that whoever sees us sees the one who is in us. That's what all this is about. That's what Lent is about. It's not just a time for fasting, prayer, and almsgiving. Everybody does that. It's not just a time to go for retreat. Everybody does that. It is a time to dispose and prepare ourselves to enter into that mystery. And to enter it so deeply that anyone who sees us sees that. And many of us Catholics don't know the value of that. That's why I like talking to people who are doing Babalawo and all those things. They understand more what we are doing than we Catholics. When I was a young child growing up, we had a guy who was not a Christian. And whenever we are coming back from Mass, he will quickly wait and greet us. Hey. And one day I asked him, what is your problem? He said, man, those of you who go and do that thing, There's something about you. There's something about you. So the question we should be asking ourselves today is this. Just like this young catechumen, are we ready to enter into that mystery, to allow it transform us from within? Are we ready to break open our shells so that God can touch us at the core of our hearts? Or is it just another Lent? We come to Station of the Cross. Yes, I shall arise and return. And then we continue doing what we are doing. Maybe so. Or are we ready to break open ourselves like the lobster, to lose our shells, like the eagle, to break our beak, so that we can enter into that mystery and walk inside it? And be transformed by it and live our lives without fear anymore. Without fear anymore. With trust. Or are we just going to go through another Lent? So let's take one moment to pause and talk to God from our hearts.